Hi, and welcome to IT Conversations, a special episode of IT Conversations because we are covering VMworld and specifically the EUC side of things of the first day of VMworld. Together with me is a very special guest. It's Sander Noordijk from VMware. Welcome, Sander.
Hey, Johan, how are you?
Good, man. It's it's VMworld. It's a tiring week, but it's an exciting week.
It's the best week of the year.
It is.
It saves you a lot of walking this year.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, I'm still wearing comfortable sneakers, but
Always wear comfortable sneakers.
yeah, but normally at VMworld you basically walk like 10, 15 kilometers a day, and yeah, it's a lot easier watching everything virtually and online. But still, dude, I miss gatherings and social networking and stuff like that. So
hopefully next year.
Hopefully next year. Fingers crossed. Well. We're in the middle of the VMworld week. We saw the general session yesterday. It was awesome, right? It was the first time the actual EUC CTO, Sean Bass, was part of the general session.
Yeah.
I think like in 10 minutes time, he had some announcements already on a very high level, but the fact that he was there, that was, VMware upped their game when it comes to VMworld. So, I think that was one of the most awesome things we saw yesterday already.
Yeah, really giving the people who are in charge of that the time to shine.
Yeah, definitely.
And Sean's an awesome speaker, so it's always good to hear him.
Yeah. You know that he's like, he has a nickname, Machine Gun, because he talks so much and so fast. But I think he worked.
It was kind of turned down this year. I was thinking that as well.
Cool. So after the general session, we saw the solution keynote, the first one. So there's a part one and a part two. So we saw the part one solution keynote yesterday, which was also the opening of the DeskCon track. What did we see?
Yeah, we saw a lot of focus on the Anywhere Workspace.
Yeah.
Last year we announced Anywhere Workspace, combining the solutions that you already own, you already know, like Workspace ONE, the new SASE environments, Carbon Black security, to bring that holistic approach to securing and enabling remote work for everyone. And where that was more of separate solutions, I think this year's show really showed how we can combine and integrate all of these things.
Yeah, and I think what was really awesome is that all of those individual solutions have their strengths. But what you're now seeing is that a really cool feature from one sone is being integrated into another solution, and you truly see the benefit of combining everything into a like you mentioned, in a holistic suite of products. Yeah. So regarding to the Anywhere Workspace. What were some of the things that really stood out yesterday? Yeah,
I think the thing that really stood out the most for me was the focus on automating the workspace and how do you do that and how do you gather those insights. And basically, they started off with a big expansion on what DEEM is, Dynamic Employee Experience Management. So DEEM originally gave us insights and slapped a experience score on what the actual experience of an end user was. So take into account app crashes, wait times, log-on times, all that sort of thing. And right now we're expanding that, almost taking it to a 2.0 level. So first off, we do the employee sentiment surveys. So how do your employees actually feel about what they're doing, but also automating stuff. So we saw machine learning to be able to take a look at spikes in data and how we can act on that. So that's a very big thing.
Yeah, awesome, man. Another thing that really stood out, I think, was, and that I guess it ties into building those endpoints for end users, was the Freestyle Orchestrator.
Definitely.
It was announced already last year, or like the first version or an alpha or beta version was shown for Windows 10.
Yeah.
But it was expanded now to Apple, so Macs. Yeah. But also mobile was announced, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be available soon for macOS and for Windows, and we'll have a tech preview before the end of the year for mobile users.
Yeah, and what it basically does is it lets you create all sorts of workflows based on no-code, low-code to completely configure your endpoint estate. And I think it's one of the coolest things I saw yesterday.
Yeah, and the ease of use is great.
Yeah.
Like you say, you just drag and drop the components that you want. You can make if and else statements. It makes a really good workflow for to get a complete desktop up and running, but also to get an order in the application of profiles, for example. For example, applications, you can say, oh, look for this file or wait for this process. For profiles, you can't.
No.
And if there's a certain order of profiles you want to apply, that's something you can really do with Orchestrator.
Yeah, very slick.
Yep.
There was like a really strong focus on the security side of things, especially zero trust, which is a hot topic, and one of the I would say one of the main drivers behind the Anywhere Workspace.
Yeah.
So related to zero trust, what stood out?
Yeah, how we're taking it further. So obviously Zero Trust works across all of components. So you want to check on the network, on the device, on the user, on the application, on the workload, and to make sure that when all of these checks pass, then you get the access and the least amount of access. However, we were able to do that with our compliance engine. So we would check if your device is still compliant or if you're still who you are. But the biggest announcement for that is that we're doing this now continuously.
Yeah.
So we'll continuously evaluating if you're still complying with the state that we've granted, and if not, we'll take away rights. And if the situation is restored, then we'll give it back, which was tremendously demonstrated with the firewall example of the woman at home.
Yeah, that was really awesome. So it's true zero trust at the moment. So that was really cool. Another thing that really stood out was related to the different types of endpoints. Linux support for Workspace ONE is expanded, so we'll be seeing hopefully more features and functionality to be controlled from a Linux perspective. And one of the things that I'm really interesting to see is if we still see that a lot of customers are buying specific thin client related solutions with their own management components and stuff like that. I'm interested to see if Linux support for Workspace ONE would be a perfect alternative for that. So you basically introduce a Linux OS on an endpoint like an Intel NUC or a Raspberry Pi or something else, and how you would be able to completely manage that and deliver applications and stuff like that. It would be interesting to see what will happen in that space. And one final thing that I'm really, really, really enthusiastic about is the support for Intel vPro.
Yeah, the love letter between our former CTO, Pat Gelsinger. Great stuff. So they're integrating with the platform that they already have. So that we can actually get more insights from the chips that they're using, get insights on strain, on battery use, on hardware info, and really combine that with the strengths of intelligence that we use with VMware.
Yeah, especially if you look at the automation side of things. So you could use the automation platform in intelligence to, for instance, power on an endpoint that was powered off, obviously, that contains a vPro CPU, and use that process to, for instance, update or upgrade or maintain the device without the user having to interact with the device. So that's something we're really enthusiastic about, especially because we've been partnering with Intel for a couple of years already. And we've been working with the endpoint team within Intel to streamline the integration already between the Intel NUC platform and Workspace ONE, and to create like an ideal endpoint for the majority of customers. And we've written a white paper about that, and we'll show or share the link to the white paper in the show notes. But that's going to be taken to a whole new level, and it's definitely something I'm enthusiastic about.
Yeah, great stuff, and it really ties back into the automation part. So where we started off with the intelligence side of things, the more information you have, the more things you can automate and take action upon. And that was also one of the cool things that I really loved was the guided root cause analysis. So whenever there's a big problem, where do you start? You start collecting logs, and you go look for certain similar situations. That can be a lot of work, especially if you work on a large amount of devices. So what if we can have all of that information parsed into intelligence, into readable dashboards, so you can find out, this situation started occurring at this time and date, when there was also a driver update. What did the driver update do? And go really drill into what is exactly the problem, and be guided through that process. I think that's going to save administrators around the world a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. Related to the rest of VMworld, anything that you look forward to?
Yeah, I look forward to the further integration between Workspace ONE and Horizon, so really bring the EUC suite together. So there's a great session by Pim about the integrating Dynamic Environment Manager into Workspace ONE UEM and what that means for devices. And also I'm very interested in the security side of things with Carbon Black.
Yeah, cool. Well, one thing that I'm looking forward to is the second solution keynote that will be broadcasted today.
Definitely.
It's the opening of the vDiscover track, and I got a couple of sessions in that track that I'll present myself. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that as well.
Can't wait.
Cool. Okay. Well, Sander, thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for watching this video. Take a look at our other VMworld videos this week as well, because we'll be covering the whole event and all the highlights that were shown there. For now, thanks so much for watching, and we'll definitely see you next time.